Can you imagine making a working model steam engine by yourself? Are you a techno geek like me from a long line of techno geeks? Hold that thought while I tell you my grandfather's story. It was 1970. My family was traveling from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Albuquerque, New Mexico in our sparkling new Volkswagen pop-up camper van. My parents would drive for 8 hours each day, and then we would camp. With the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, it took us 4 full days to make the trip of just under 1,500 miles. The further south we drove to New Mexico, the hotter it got. My 8-year-old self was miserable as I started to stick to the genuine imitation orange naugahyde, a new state-of-the-art seat covering made to resemble leather that was really fabric covered with rubber. Yuck! But we had to make it there to be present for my grandfather to be honored by the University of New Mexico. Our car ride was probably a lot more pleasant than the trip my grandfather was taken on as a wee babe from Kabul, Missouri to Cleburne, Texas by wagon in 1896. That was just under 600 miles, but probably took about 28 days at a fast wagon pace of 20 miles per day. But his father had lost the lease on a farm in Missouri and needed the job as a machinist that the Santa Fe Railroad was going to provide for him in Cleburne. You think times are hard now with COVID isolation and the bad job market? In the 1910s, when my grandfather Mike was a teenager, times were tough too. He had to drop out of high school to help his father feed his siblings by working alongside him as a machinist for the Santa Fe Railroad. But he knew it was important to get his high school diploma. In 1915, the Santa Fe Railroad allowed Mike 9 months on part-time so he could finish high school. And in 1916, he was an honor graduate from the Cleburne High School, the first of his family to finish secondary school. In 1916, while still working for the Santa Fe Railroad, he entered and won a national contest sponsored each year by the Ryerson Steel Company. The task? Make the best functioning model steam engine. Can you imagine making a working model steam engine by yourself? The award was a 4-year scholarship at Purdue University in Indiana. The Santa Fe Railroad was so proud of his winning that they gave Mike a 4-year pass to ride to and from school using their railroad. But he had no money for food or housing. He joined a fraternity as their house manager, which gave him free room and board. He continued to work for the Santa Fe Railroad part-time, and then World War I interrupted Mike's college studies. He served from 1917 to 1919 as a sergeant first class in the Army Motor Transportation Corps. His unit was about to be sent to Europe when the war ended. He graduated from Purdue in 1922 with a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. Mike returned to college to earn his master's degree at the University of Texas in Austin because he couldn't work any longer in the Santa Fe Railroad because they were in the midst of a very long strike. He taught while he earned his degree, and he received his master's in mechanical engineering in 1925. While there, he met and married a university English instructor, Roselle Goree, in 1925. She was a childless widow of a World War I aviator. In 1927, their first child, Marshall Jr., was born. From 1927 to 1930, he taught at the Texas Technological College in Lubbock, now known as Texas Tech. He helped start their mechanical engineering department. Then he spent a year as acting dean of engineering at the University of Arkansas, after which he became the dean of the College of Engineering at the University of New Mexico. And on February 2nd, 1933, their second child, John, was born. His first few years at UNM were during the depths of the Depression, and they were very hard. Money was scarce. UNM salaries were cut in half in 1933. Teaching loads were high, and for a few years, Mike served double duty as both the dean and the chairman of the Department of Mechanical Engineering. He and his faculty personally did most of the design and supervised the construction of the college's growing facilities. In 1937, Mike was successful in getting national accreditation for the engineering programs at UNM. Before and during World War II, Mike set up and supervised the instruction for the Civil Aeronautics Training Program, the Navy Basic Flight Training Program, and the New Mexico Community War Training courses. The influx of veteran students at the end of the war saw the engineering school double and then redouble in size. It was during these strenuous years that Mike guided the engineering school to establish graduate programs. See, no graduate students here. Graduate students. And to construct new buildings and laboratory facilities. Mike retired as Dean of Engineering at UNM in 1960. In 1970, UNM celebrated the dedication of the Ferris Engineering Center. And Mike, Rosellen, their 2 sons and their wives, and all 7 of their grandchildren were able to attend, including me, once I peeled myself off the imitation genuine Naugahyde of our camper van. Mike died in Albuquerque in 1973 at age 78. Upon his death, Roselle set up the Ferris Memorial Engineering Scholarship. Since then, the Ferris family has increased the size of the fund to its current value. Their eldest son, Marshall, and his wife, Joan, and their 3 daughters, Anne and twins Jane and Lynn, are all UNM graduates, 4 with advanced degrees. Their second son, John, is a 1954 mechanical engineering graduate from UNM who had the pleasure of taking 1 or 2 classes from his father. John married Jo Margaret, another graduate of UNM. They have 4 children, of which I am the 3rd. I am proud to be part of the Ferris Mechanical Engineering legacy, even though my bachelor's in mechanical engineering is not from UNM. Alas, it's from a lesser school somewhere in the Northeast United States. The Ferris Engineering Center was redesigned, rebuilt, and rededicated in 2018. Continuing the mechanical engineering legacy, my son will earn his bachelor's in mechanical engineering in May from New Mexico Tech. Sadly, neither he nor I can build a working model steam engine by ourselves, even though we are both techno geeks. But at least I'm not sticking to imitation genuine orange Naugahyde anymore. Thank God for air conditioning.